Welcome back to Wayfinding, Journey to Become a Temple of God. We're continuing Chapter 4, Living in Babel, World Systems Influenced by Spirits of Darkness. Let's take a deeper dive in Priests of Babylon. Let's examine the establishment, development, and preservation of Babylonian world systems. Each human civilization and subcultures feature priests, often linked to an institution. And priests here it is in quotes because it may not be necessarily religious, it may be political, economic, educational, entertainment. But what these priests are is they're mediators and those that are intermediaries between a system of ideas, a systems that shapes a worldview. They are representatives of a worldview, a world order, of how things should be in the world, of how human activities should be guided and directed, how humans' thoughts and emotions should be directed, what is befitting, what is unfitting, what is desirable or undesirable, what is the vision that should inspire human beings. It's fundamentally spiritual. It's something that transcends the material. It is in the realm of ideas and imagination, and these priests are representatives and arbiters and sometimes establishers of these world-shaping systems and idea-shaping and life-view-shaping systems, but these are representatives of spirits, and whether they're a divine spirit or a human spirit or evil spirits, they are those that establish and maintain a certain manner of being in the world for humanity. They serve as keepers, propagators, and enforcers of the narratives and structures established by finite prodigal entities. So they promote a narrative of life and how each of us fit into that narrative, they preserve it, they promote it. They act as representatives of world-shaping sovereigns. These figures claim to provide good news through promises of guidance, purpose, fulfillment, or even salvation, independent of a genuine relationship with God. And so these often happen in the education sector, where these educators will claim to represent the true narrative of reality, the true essence and way things are, their true reality, and the way things ought to be. And they are represented as promoting this guiding influence as people who go there. They find direction in life. They find a reason to live in life. They find ideas with the way things should be and how they can help promote that realm of imagination, of ideas of the way things could be in the world, and then how human beings can bring about that idealization of the way the world should be into the actual concrete world of everyday life. They aim to address the emptiness felt by prodigal children who are lost or isolated. They offer purpose, they offer meaning, they offer something to live for and sometimes even to die for, things that you can dedicate your life to. That might be a career, or it might be a political cause, or something outside of oneself that should direct and guide your activity in life. Their impact hinges on how effectively they shape the economia and historicity of the world system to resonate with the human need to fit, to belong and fit in. And so for a lot of people who don't feel like they belong, they will go to an organization or a group that will accept them and will affirm them and will present them a somewhat realistic opportunity of who they can be and who they think they should be in the world. And they also affirm and acknowledge and support one another in these groups and organizations. They affirm each other, and through that bond of unity and collaboration and cooperation, they find something to guide them every day and something to live for. Serving in such a priestly position is not restricted to explicitly religious institutions. Extremely idealistic politicians like Hitler, Lenin, and Mao promoted the economia historicity of their extreme models of government and society, often and sometimes at the barrel of a gun. And these smart leaders knew that they needed to stir a revolution, that the way they envisioned the world should be, it wasn't the way it was currently, and they saw current power structures and the current ways of organizing humanity weren't directed to the proper ends, so they would inspire revolution or rebellion against those established world systems of politics and government and and the narratives guiding human beings, and they co-opted them to promote their own vision and narrative and their own ideas, and propagated them through their priestly class of people that were evangelists for them to promote their ideas of how the economy should be situated, who should be ruling in government, how the military, what purpose the military should serve, who should be in politics, who should be elevated, who should be lowered, what manner of life was seen as befitting to the country or the society, and all these systems. They had to establish a very new house rules and a very even new narrative guiding the people of Germany or China or these different places to tell them of what their nation could be, and then and the ideas of how things should be that is better, and what house rules need to be torn down, what organizations need to be disbanded, what people need to be removed from power in order to establish a different way of ordering human activity on Earth and the human civilization. On the other hand, thinkers like Adam Smith, Bernard Mendel, Milton Friedman, responsible for developing or formalizing the principles of capitalism, consumerism, and neoliberal economics, promoted models of economics and society that greatly inform the modern world today. So they presented ideas first in academia and then inspired those ideas to be applied politically and in business, and in how government would facilitate business operations, how they would intervene or not intervene, what role or how businesses should be operated, how they should be organized to facilitate their model of prosperity. And so they are world builders and world establishers who are bringing about a new, and just as each epoch of humanity or civilization, there is a new way of human beings of how to relate to one another, how to do government, what roles and what jobs there are, and just how human activity is directed throughout the short lifespan of the human beings who live in them. The historicity of these models can be seen how its ideals, such as a profit motive, social status, being linked to wealth accumulation. And so a part of that there is the idea is if you can financially benefit from innovation, then it is an incentive that human beings can be incentivized by either owning their own land and having the responsibility, and that if they are fruitful, they can reap a reward and attain a higher standard of living, or those that are innovating technologies or products to enter the marketplace, they are motivated to innovate and improve based upon the ability to achieve profit through those enterprises and make get loans and sacrifices, but then have a potential, or in that risk have a potential of gain, and that be motivational for new products and new services that improve the human standard of living, and even the technology that we've seen giant leaps and bounds in technology through capitalistic societies, as businesses are motivated to continually in order to compete, they have to continually improve their products and continually maintain market share by marketing campaigns and these other. But at the end of the day, people being free to choose what products to buy that are available, and that freedom inspiring and requiring businesses to work and have to work and try to attract people to their businesses, and a part of part of their how they develop new technologies. One example in our day is just the phone. The evolution of smartphones has increased greatly since the BlackBerry or even the first iPhone, as different versions of Android and different models of iPhone compete for the market share of smartphones in our society. These priests adeptly employed specific narratives about the human experience to bolster their advocated social reforms, government priorities, and international policies. And so each of these folks in the sector of selling products, whether that be products of entertainment or necessity or products of medication, all these products, they have their priestly class who their responsibility is to convert people to their products, to say your life will be empty without our product. Your life will not be fulfilled without our product. Our product will facilitate you achieving a higher state of being in the world, or a higher sense of achievement or success, or just achieve a better life. And many of these products are championed by celebrities or influencers, and even in the government there are lobbyists that are petitioning and trying to convince even news organizations to shape their narratives to increase their sales. I mean, believe it or not, it's not happen chance that most of legacy media is funded by the pharmaceutical industry, and most of their ads are pharmaceutical, and so that will influence how they do news. And the COVID pandemic is very obvious with that, but just how the pharmaceutical industry has been bolstered and promoted through the news organizations, through that lobbying, and all the government through the campaign donations that they make, as they can solidify that in the world to truly achieve a proper state of mind, a proper ordering of yourself, you need to take these drugs, and they will establish a rightness in your inner being that will allow you to achieve higher sexual self-actualization, higher ability to, or better ability to work in the world and to progress in society, to counteract anxiety or stress or just depression or the problems that have come from relational abuse or problems in the past, or just relational harm that's been done in the psyche, and how these drugs will counteract that and will allow people to continue in the world as if that didn't happen to them, and that they can move beyond that. But the point is that all these products and services, there are a campaign to convert society to adapt to accept them as essential for humanness to be realized, and for us to be happy, and for us to get to where we want to be and aspire to be in the world. Today's celebrities and social influencers also frequently endorse mindsets and ground rules pertaining to lifestyles, perspectives, social systems, humanitarian efforts, and social issues. And so these social influencers or celebrities, they often will insert themselves in politics and in just the realm of the marketplace, not the marketplace, but the town square, metaphorically, where humans will talk about how humans should live, what ideas should guide us, what ambition should guide us, what points of view should guide us. And so a lot of celebrities will use their platform to shape the hearts and minds of the people who idealize them or are huge fans of them, that they are eager to fall in line with whatever position on cultural issues that these celebrities have. But these influencers, they are fundamentally priests, and many of them are priests of a humanitarian world they're not, the God relationship is not brought up. Even spiritual matters may not be brought up, but their whole philosophy of life, it runs contrary to revelation, because it comes from how human beings aspire to be in the world according to our own morality, our own ideas, our own vision of what should be in the world. And some of these might be legitimate, and some of them might be somewhat good, and others can be just anarchic, or it could be produce anarchy, or even destruction in society, or violence, or not felonies, or just vandalism. That some of these will even promote illegal activity and violence, and that's something that's obvious to anyone who listens to the most popular music on iTunes or the billboards or watch the MTV show. These are all priests. They're all promoting paganism as their religion, or humanism as their religion, and they establish their own house rules and promote their own house rules, and most of them are rooted in selfishness, self-centeredness, or just living for the sake of humanity. They're living for the sake of the here and the now, just being focused on the here and the now. They're telling everybody, just focus on life here and now, just focus and enjoy life and make the most of it, or whatever they're promoting. It's all focused on the horizontal plane, ignoring the duty before God, or the plans or vision of God, or the moral absolutes established by God. They disregard them entirely, and part of it is because they're promoting a whole materialistic way of life, and a lot of those even that are sponsoring them or supporting them want them to, because their music sways human beings to behave or purchase in a certain way, or to act a certain way that's advantageous to certain organizations in our society. And so they're more than happy to adapt or to utilize, and any political campaign, or even political campaigns in our past, you always see them drawing in celebrities or influencer musicians to support them, because their ideas of the way the world should be align, and so, or they benefit each other, or they reinforce each other. The rise of wokeism and influencer marketing on social media exemplify this trend. So a lot of Hollywood has been responsible for reshaping the social standards of our whole society. It is obvious. You just watch the shows that were standard and normal in American families to watch 20, 30, 40 years ago. They lay out what was, at that time, the expected standard of communicating, of living, of being in the world, and what life was about. And then, as you see, every decade it changes. Society also has adapted and kind of been shaped by that, influenced by that. And it could be reciprocal, or it could be both reinforcing, and sometimes it is the Hollywood that has promoted ways of how humans should be in the world, that then society learns to adapt and accept, even though society once didn't accept those things, or didn't think they were an acceptable way of living in the world, acceptable lifestyle choices, or acceptable language to use, or how to have relations with other people, or how to behave around other people, how to relate to God or not relate to God, how to relate to government or not relate to government, how to relate to one another. You have a lot of these media being influential in shaping the spirit of the culture, and the culture being a reflection of what is accepted and what is kind of being promoted as the way human beings should live, what we should focus on, and whether, for instance, if we just focus on pleasure or material possessions, or just focus on whatever it might be, these campaigns will impact and change society and change people and what people accept as normal. And so even this has radically shaped even people in churches. That people in churches used to have different views on politics or sexuality or marriage or different views on language or what's acceptable content to consume entertainment wise. And at one time in many churches, a lot of this stuff was taboo, and now it's normally consumed, and people just consume it as if there's nothing wrong with it today, because they've been so shaped by the culture that they don't realize that their religion or the worldview of their religion or the ways of life promoted in the Bible are actually at odds with that of society. And there's a failure to be able to kind of see the world around you as through the lens of Scripture, because so much of the standard of what is normal or what should be is established by the culture and the world around you. And so a few hours a week at a church service isn't going to fundamentally change your worldview and your life view and your aspirations in life. And just like you can't become a doctor if you go to medical school 1 hour a week and expect in 4 or 5 years you'll be able to practice medicine. That's foolish and illogical. Or thinking that you can go fight in a war if you go and practice some military stuff an hour a week. Like, no, you can't adapt a radical new way of being in the world, a new way of living, a new lifestyle by just a few hours a week. That's not going to change your fundamental view of how you should spend your days during the week. You're just going to, yes, you may have ideas and imaginations and be all excited during a service, but then on Monday or Tuesday you just go back to the normal flow of life, because we human beings, we don't rehabituate merely by a download of some information or some inspiring language that would try to call us to a whole new way of life. And this is why actually campaigns like even good campaigns in a degree like Promise Keepers, they would promote a whole new way of how men can be in the world, but then men would just have to go back to their routine way of life, and that whole new way of living, it just fell out of the mind, and you just reverted back to what you were used to without some constant reinforcement and a discipleship and a training program and a collaboration with others to say, wow, we need to change this. We need to change this. Oh, we need to do this differently. Oh, we need to work on this, or we need to be, there has to be a community reinforcement, or at least a program that's actually going to be established to rehabituate our way of life in the world. Just like if you were going to go from being an office worker to be a Marine, you're going to have to go through boot camp. You're going to have to go through intense training, reprogramming of your whole way of life is fundamentally altered. What you do on a daily basis is fundamentally altered. Your relations with others is fundamentally altered. Everything has changed for you. And that's what Christianity was meant to be. And that's what it truly is in its true environment, is a whole program of rediscovering who we are and how we should be in the world. But if we let ourselves solely be shaped by the priests of this world, then we're going to be followers of the religion of the world. You can, whatever religion shapes your life view and worldview, that is your primary religion. Whether or not you say you have one religion on Sunday, it's a religion of Monday through Friday that is actually your religion, is actually what your life is about. They believe they have earned the authority to instruct their followers on what to think, what to purchase, how to vote, and how to behave. And a lot of it's a sin of pride, it's a sin of arrogance, it's a sin where they think they have the right and the authority to govern humanity and to tell humanity the way things should be in the world and how we should live. They're doing the same thing priests did in societies for millennia. They're just continuing that tradition through a non-religion that's actually a religion. It's a religion of humanism. It's a religion where humans make the rules. Humans determine value. Humans determine right and wrong. Humans are the beings to become enlightened, and our fate is in our own hands. And this religion is fundamentally at odds with the religion of Christ. These celebrities, like musicians, wield significant influence in molding worldviews and lifestyles through the music and the personas they project to their audience. No one can honestly say that the music that Americans listen to does not influence how we live, how we act, how we talk. It may not be completely like that, or we might not be completely shaped, but it does influence us. And it is obvious by anyone who has seen how the emo music gave rise to emo culture, or the rap culture, a certain hip hop culture gave rise to a particular extremely materialistic or even gang lifestyle, or even, you can't. We've been lied to that music doesn't affect us. And there are these musicians that they promote sexual morality to such an extreme that it's criminal. And people are like, oh, that's just music. And then they get busted for doing that activity. How many musicians have we seen fall from stardom or even in prison or go through courts through horrific activity they were doing behind the scenes, or what they were doing to fans, or what they were doing to people around them, to abuse them, to force themselves on them, to promote a very debauched lifestyle. It's like, duh, that's what they sang about. Almost every celebrity that sang about sin and evil, they did sin and evil. And then people say, oh no, we just like the beat, we just like the melody, we just like how it makes us feel. It's going to shape you. It's going to influence you. And it's obvious by anyone who's seen or been around people who are so absorbed in certain musicians that they start emulating and start copying that behavior. And some of them go to jail for doing the things that they heard about in the songs. What are some of the impactful modern priests in your community and country? What do you believe they have on you, influence do they have on you and those around you? Is it positive? Is it negative? Do you actually acknowledge it as negative, and do you actually try to separate yourself from it? In ancient times, priests were tasked with instilling loyalty to the established rules of their system. Their loyalty was believed to keep their lands fertile and safe, as well as attract divine favor, blessings for families and community. Today, modern priests offer individual blessings or collective blessings. These figures resemble charismatic evangelical preachers who encourage people, saying, come, join our way of life and flourish. Find purpose and be part of something greater than yourself, or be true to yourself. It is evident that the priests of Babylon, whether consciously or not, aim to shape world orders that promote the temporal kingdoms of created beings rather than the eternal goals of the Creator's kingdom. Most of these priests could care less about God's kingdom. They could care less about heaven and eternity. They could care less about God's will. They could care less about what Christ did for us and how we should respond. They could care less about our need for the Holy Spirit. They could care less for the standards of God. They could care less for the agenda of God. It is far from their mind. It is not what they are about. And so they're going to try to influence us and encourage us to be absent-minded from God, or God to be out of mind, out of heart, and for us to just be focused on the world that they offer, on the world that they shine a light on. They shine a light on what we could be, or how we should feel, or how we should be in the world. And then they become our true priests. They become those that are truly shaping our lives, truly shaping us instead of God's kingdom. Unfortunately, many people it may not be the pastors in their life that are their true priests. It is the cultural priests that are the ones actually shaping their life view and worldview throughout the week, shaping their ideas of right and wrong. And so why should we be surprised when either those who say they ascribe to Christianity but live like the world, or only for the sake of the world, or the priests of Christian religion start propagating and promoting the things of the world because their parishioners are already sold out to the religion of the world. So they're just going to let the world and just be honest and at least frank that their Christian religion is actually promoting and fundamentally at one with the religions of the world and one with society's views and perspectives. And so we have these Christian churches that are fundamentally nothing different than the culture around us and what they promote as right and wrong and what humans should live for, or even who God is. And like they say God encourages, they promote a God that even endorses those lifestyles that go at odds with his words and his scripture. But they say, oh, the God of our day, the true God, he endorses the world religion. He endorses the ways of life of the world. There's nothing wrong with living for the sake of the world. There's nothing wrong with accepting the standards of the world. That's a lie, and it's a deception. And anyone who's truly gone down that path knows that. The world betrays us all the time. You cannot live in the world and not be betrayed by a lie that you believe this one way of life would make you happy, would fulfill you, would satisfy you, would bring you some solace or joy or encouragement or strength. And then you find emptiness and hollowness, and it's a lie. You realize that it's not what they claimed it was. Speaking to those who live in such a human-centered world, our guide warns of believers. We live in a crooked and perverse society. You, my friend, live in a wicked and perverse society. I don't care where you live on planet Earth. Every society is a crooked and perverse society. Even a religious society, even a religious that claims the religion of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because Jesus, the people who are writing the scriptures, lived in communities that acknowledge Yahweh, the God of the revealed himself to Abraham, the Ten Commandments, and they acknowledged the religion of Abraham and Moses. But they didn't acknowledge the religion of Christ, and they didn't acknowledge the true religion of the patriarchs and the essence. They instead accepted a religion that was that adapted to the standards and the ways of the world. And so you must realize that you live in a crooked and perverse society. If you try to be one with society, if you try to follow how society says you should be in the world to the T, you are in the category of that which is crooked and perverse, because it is not aligned with the Creator and what his vision and his plans and his purposes and his character and what he is about for eternity. We must not be motivated by selfish ambition or vanity. Thousands of years ago, human beings were motivated by selfish ambition and vanity just like today. Most of us are tempted to just live for our own ambitions of what we can accomplish in our own strength and abilities and mind and skills and our own beauty and how we can use that, as many people will just use their beauty to be able to have power and influence on others, or even how to be financially profitable. Ask anyone who's gone and been the rare who've been successful on platforms online where they can sell their bodies and reap a lot of money. And it's just we live in a society, just like what the internet can be, is your own world, and a world of your own enjoyment, and a world that can be whatever you want it to be. It is vanity. It is selfishness. Others are busy with their own concerns, not those of Jesus Christ. You can have godly religious concerns, but if they're not the concern of Jesus Christ, you are not a follower of Jesus Christ. Because to execute the will of God and to abide in the plan of God, you have to have a relationship with God. Without actually taking time and spending time with God and praying and communing with God and worshiping and walking with God on an intimate level, you can't be concerned with what he's concerned about. Your heart won't beat for what his heart beats for. Your mind won't think what his mind does. You have to spend time with Christ. You have to spend time with God present in the world if you want to be shaped by him instead of the world. I tell you that some former believers have done so and become enemies of the cross of Christ. There were those that were dedicated to Christ, but they did not. They let the crooked and perverse society, let the world suck them in, and their identity and meaning in the world became so important to them that they neglected their God relationship, and they became enemies of the cross of Christ. People who were once committed to the cross of Christ can become enemies of the cross of Christ. It is obvious in our world around us. We've seen it many of us have seen this in our own lives and communities where we grew up. But this happens all the time in human relationship. There are human beings that are like, I love you, I'll live with you forever, I'll do anything for you. And then 5 years later, they're divorced and they hate each other and never talk to each other ever again, if they could. That can happen in our God relationship. What happens in our human relationships can happen in God, because just as the parable of the virgins who had their wick and were waiting on the bridegroom teaches us, you have to have oil in your lamp. Your God relationship has to be continually fueled and be refueled when it needs to be, or when it's going out. The sin isn't, you need more oil. The sin is not buying more oil. So we come to God when we need more oil, and that's what repentance is. But in the same way, our relationship with God can become cold, just as we see in Revelations, where he says, you've fallen from your first love. Your God relationship requires investment routinely. Their end is destruction, and their God is the belly. How many campaigns in our society are rooted in the God is our belly? Our belly tells us who we should be. Our body tells us it dictates our future and destiny, meaning our appetites and what we desire. That's all we live for. And we do only just imagine if you only eat what your taste buds wants to eat all the time. Just imagine if you only did what your gut or your appetite wanted when you didn't feel like exercising, not exercise. If you want to eat junk food, we all know where that leads. They exalt in their shame and they think about earthly things. This is very offensive to our society. To say that if you think a lot about earthly things, you're an enemy of Christ. Because you're promoting and focusing on a kingdom that is at odds with his, different house rules, different vision, different purposes, different plans, different energy, fundamentally at odds with his kingdom. And then if you're focused on that, then that's your vision, that's your purpose, that's what you're living for. You're not living for the cross of self-denial, you're living for the cross of self-fulfillment outside of God. And self-fulfillment in and of ourselves. And that, my friend, is dangerous. That leads to destruction. The wayfinding that we're about in this journey is to find eternal life. That means there's wayfinding that leads away from eternal life, that seeks a life outside of eternal life, a temporal, transient life of purpose and meaning that will ultimately fade into nothingness. And yet Christ offers us a true eternal hope. But if that's not our focus, that's not where we're moving, we're headed to destruction. Ultimately, whether motivated by, this is so obvious you cannot look at our society and see how much self-destruction has come upon people we thought were the most successful and wonderful prototypes of who human beings should be. And then they've become an example of what you should never become, or they become anathema in society and a shame of society. And this happens so often where these people that represent the greatness of human possibility, and then you see them either what they were behind closed doors or what they had become later in life. It's happened so much. You see it in the media, you see it in the tabloids every day. And still we don't wake up to, wow, going that path of destruction is going to lead to destruction. But we still think, I'm not going to fall down the pit they fell into. All human world systems fundamentally center upon the joint effort to be free from the existential commitment, wholehearted devotion, absolute submission, and total dependence required by the God relationship. Just imagine if you're married and then you hang out with a group of friends and they're all encouraging you to just go wild and to act as if you're not married and to betray your covenant vows so you can have a fun night and a fun weekend because you deserve it. How normal is that in our society? But there are these forces in the world, they don't care about our God relationship. They don't care about us fulfilling God's will. They don't care about our prayer life. All they care about is us reinforcing their views of life and their approach and their what they see life is about. And they just want you to shut up and just talk about what they want to talk about and live in their world. They want you to just get out of that world and be in the world they are in. And that's why bad company will corrupt you. In what ways will this realization about the widespread presence and impact of Babylonian priests and their broadcasts alter your lifestyle or mindset? When you turn on the news, ask, is this a Babylonian priest? When you turn on the radio, listen, is that a Babylon? When you go and scrolling X or Instagram or something, are these Babylonian priests? How are they trying to convert me? How are they trying to tempt me? How are they trying to tell me who I am? Only by participating in a God relation, grounded in divine revelation, can we truly establish ourselves within an eternal world system. And that's what we're going to be seeking out later in this journey. And I'm going to take one quick segue, is altruism. So someone say, well, being altruistic, just trying to help other people and just caring about other people, that's the true religion. Well, altruism can become a collective selfishness, a collective absent-mindedness of God, or this God aloofness and God abandonment of not abandoning God and abandoning His will and vision collectively to say, we're just in this for ourselves. We're just here to support each other. We're just here to help each other as in the ways that we're able to help each other. That's what life is about. Kierkegaard would bring this up often in his text, Works of Love, which is one of the best books I've ever read in my life. I definitely encourage you to read it. Kierkegaard likens this collective alliance in self-love, and we can compare it to the Christmas season in America's culture, characterized by self-seeking consumerism and materialism. Yes, it's all about the Christmas spirit of giving, but it's all about us getting, and giving, but us getting. Kierkegaard notes how this way of life, and it's not about the perfect gift, the true gifts that are eternal. It's about transient gifts. It is not about the gifts of the Spirit. It is not about the gift of Christ. It is about material possessions that will make us happy for a little bit, and then we get rid of them, and we sell them, or we just don't use them. Kierkegaard notes how this way of life requires that a person sacrifice a portion of his own self-love in order to hold together united self-love. And it requires that he sacrifice a God relationship in order to hold together in a worldly way with this alliance. Any altruistic ordering or pursuit that ignores and rejects a God relationship is fundamentally a destructive alliance and is actually not actually loving one another. It is like, oh, I will love you. Let me reinforce your addiction that is destroying you. Oh, I love you, but let me encourage you to destroy your marriage and your family. Oh, I love you, but I'm going to give you something that I know will make you sick. And this is actually one of the things that really disturbs me, is there can be these Christian groups and organizations that are all about God and miracles, but then they don't hold each other accountable to living a healthy lifestyle. And then their people in their community could suffer drastically because of preventable diseases, or even die because of their lifestyle choices. And the people around them say, oh, I love you every weekend. But they let their person they say they love kill themselves, essentially, or just subject their family to hardships and struggles and pain because that's not in their theology to actually promote the good of the body of those in their community, or to truly like hold each other accountable to realize that how you're living on a daily basis, both spiritually and physically, will impact yourself and those around you. And I've actually unfortunately seen tragedies where people would say to people, I love you every weekend, and just let the people they say they love just waste away or just continue in a very self-destructive patterns of life, and do nothing truly to help them change that. That's not love. It isn't. It isn't love. It isn't. It is. You should be very careful how we say we love someone. You don't love someone by saying, oh, I have a good feeling about you, or I just want what's good for you. Love means I'm going to dedicate myself in what way I can, or what way God has equipped me to promote what is truly good from God's standpoint in your life. And that might require sacrifice. That might require even like Jesus being laughed at and spit at and rejected, and because Jesus' prescriptions for the good life were offensive to people. And so sometimes loving people will offend them, will bother them. Just as if you're a parent and you've had children, if you don't piss off your children and make them mad at you sometimes, you're failing. Because if I gave my kids junk food every time they wanted to, if I let them play Nintendo or watch movies or just do whatever they want all the time, if I didn't make them mad sometimes, I'm a terrible parent. And you're a terrible parent if you do that too. I mean, how many, if you say you love your child and your child is struggling with preventable obesity, childhood obesity rates is insane in our country, and people say, oh, I love my children. No, you're putting them in a position that these consequences for these behavioral choices of your children will impact them throughout their lives, and could even get them a diabetic condition or some condition that will be with them the rest of their life, because you're letting them eat whatever they want. That's not love. It isn't. So be very careful when you say you love someone. There's actually a whole book I wrote on God is Love. I encourage you to look into it. But a part of that is love is self-sacrifice. Love is action. You can't read the book of James and John, first letters of John, and not get that. So be very careful when you say you love someone if you're not actually loving them from eternity's standpoint or from God's standpoint, because you're going to be accountable for that. You're going to be held to account for claiming or committing to promoting the good of the other. But if you're not, then you've lied and you've deceived and you've betrayed that commitment. It is dangerous. But we're called to love and we're commanded to love. It just, love comes with a cost and it comes with a duty. But the world systems promote self-love, promote a collective self-love for each other, a love of humanity without God, a humanity that's transient, a humanity that's a shadow of what we're meant to be, a humanity that's corrupted or perverse. They want us to love that and celebrate that. I mean, we live in a society that wants to celebrate every form of sexual fulfillment a person can have that's permissible and that has consent. You can't, and if you have that viewpoint and you know what's on the internet and what most people use the internet for, you're living in a dream world, a world that all this live just for sexual fulfillment, fulfill yourself however you want, and then you see what's online and where that leads and how destructive. And I mean, how it's an irony. I mean, some of the actors who've portrayed people that were addicted to this behavior, they had to go to rehab. Is that an irony? No, because they're being priests of a lifestyle and presenting it and glorifying it and kind of trying to say everybody else, this is the lifestyle you should have. look at where that leads. They have all these portrayals of older person falling in love with a younger person, or this illicit love affair, or this or just they paint this eroticism as the end all be all, and then you read a newspaper of another teacher and a student, another teacher and a student, another teacher and a student. Should we be surprised? No. That's what we've promoted, and even a lot of our media portrays things like that, even in video games. Even video games portray that. But we're okay with that. That's fine. Even though it's criminal to do, we can partake of it in our entertainment. And then when people actually start doing that more and more, then we just point our fingers at those people without pointing the fingers at the system that's created that person. However, since fallen humanity desires to be free from subservience to the one true God, most people join in a charade of existential rebellion. To achieve this, they follow the priests of the world systems who promise them freedom from the obligations to the divine. All around you are representatives of a religion that you have no duty before God. There's a God out there. There's a God who's going to get you heaven when you die. But you have no obligation to God. I mean, it's so it's like, boss, give me a paycheck. Well, what work did you do? I didn't do any work. Well, you get no paycheck. Like in almost all of human existence and human relationships, there's accountability. And there is, if you want to achieve some great outcome or experience or enjoy something, there's a responsibility and obligation that you have to do to get there. You can't win an award if you don't run the race. If people expect heaven without doing what heaven requires us to do to be rewarded with heaven, it is foolish because it goes against common sense. And yet people think, when I die, God's just going to be fine with me however I was, and I'm just going to go to this heaven. But heaven is a place that's just for me and what I want, and all my dreams come true. And it's selfishness. It's hell, fundamentally. And if hell is what you desire, hell is what you're going to get, because hell has no obligation to the divine. It has, just like for you to have a job in the world, you have to have an obligation. For you to have a marriage or a family, you have to have an obligation. If you have friends, you're going to have an obligation. If you're going to be a part of an organization, you need to have some obligation. I mean, to truly experience a home in life, belonging in life, there is obligation and duty. And without that duty, you're going to get kicked out. If you just don't do your work anymore, your boss is going to fire you. If you don't take care of your children and you're not going to your wife, but just going to other women, your wife's going to divorce you. I mean, or the reverse. I mean, this is how the world is, because just like if you don't water a plant, it's not going to grow. Anyways, as figures who keep the household of human existence free from governance and the vision of the Creator, their goal is to keep you ignorant of the vision of God. Their goal is to keep you not caring about what God wants for you in your life. They are idolatrous priests, leading humanity astray. Their followers worship at the altar a high place of illegitimate sovereignties. We all worship something. It's just what we worship. But we can say we worship something, but if something we worship is something also that we want to revolve our lives around, we want to, like in sovereignty, we want to shape our lives, we want it to be, I mean, if you worship a celebrity, well, the celebrity is you're going to talk about it, you're going to have posters, you're going to have everything about them, because that's all you think about, and that's what you desire, and that's, if heaven, that's your heaven. Whatever you imagine heaven is, that's what you worship. Who govern their oikonomia, worldviewing, and self-conception in place of the Creator. Babylonian temples and Atlantic academies serve to promote the prideful humanistic enterprise of fallen human civilization. I'm going to skip a little bit. Historically, even the idolatrous Levitical priests and false prophets in Israel aimed to reshape the contextual elements of Judaism to align with pagan worldviews prevalent in surrounding cultures. I mean, there's a story in the Bible. There's a lot of fun R-rated stories in the Bible, but the sons of the high priest were fornicating with the servant girls of the priest of the temple. Obviously, they weren't sold out to the house rules of Yahweh. They weren't committing to upholding the values of Yahweh. And that's why they were condemned and the priesthood was illegitimate, and the prophets had to rise up to hold account the religious representatives to actually upholding the truth and the true way of life that God has called his people to. The prophets are always those who rise up in a generation and they call all people to account of the true way humans should be in the world. And I mean, people, let's say Jeremiah, for example, here is saying, hey, you people have this good Jewish religion, but you don't care at all about the suffering and hurting in the world. You're abusing people, taking advantage of people, and even killing the innocent and accepting bribes. That happens in our day. That happens in societies today, even in countries today that are dedicated to a certain religion. That doesn't mean their politicians and their people actually follow the true message and the true house rules and the way of life promoted by that religion. And so the prophets are meant to say, hey, wake up. You're not actually following through on the lifestyle that your religion actually commands you to follow. You're actually not practicing what you preach, or you're just out of touch with God, what God actually requires. And so these prophets are meant to correct a misalignment of an organization that says they're dedicated to the house rules of God to the actual house rules of God. And anyone can read the New Testament and say, do these house rules of how Christians should be in the world align with my church or the religion that I'm seeing operate in the world? If it doesn't, then it is not actually the true religion of Christ. It is not actually the truth of the scriptures they actually say they follow and say they submit themselves to. If they don't actually let those scriptures shape their worldview, shape how they do religion and community, then it is actually pagan. It is actually idolatrous. It is actually anti-God. And that's why we see the prophets continually going to groups of people that had the Torah, the Old Testament, and were dedicated to the religion of the Old Testament, and yet their life view was completely at odds with what was in that content, what was in those scriptures. Same today. They like the Romanization of Christianity, which would happen later, is Rome took on Christianity as its state religion, and people who needed to or aspire to political positions had to be connected religiously, and people who wanted to be good citizens had to be connected religiously, and to be a citizen, ultimately, as in other societies, you were just de facto a Christian by being born in that society. But the world is perverse and corrupted, so how can that be true and a society be Christian? It can't. There is no city of God on earth. Which would come centuries later, fuse pagan rites and narratives with Jewish oikonomia. Anyone can look at the history of Christianity and see how Christianity, when it goes to other societies, would assimilate some of the rituals and practices. And the most obvious example of this is praying to saints and seeing saints as demigods and lower gods, or even seeing any human as a part of the pantheon of gods. Well, that was normal in almost every pagan society was a pantheon of deities. So if you wanted to convert everyone overnight. Well, now your pantheon are these saints, and now each of these saints have these distinct attributes and characteristics, just as your gods did before. And so it's just a replacement of one label with another, and the essence remains the same. Into the narrative of Judaism temple worship. This resulted in synchronism, as explained in the following passage. Let's take a passage so you know that what I'm saying is true. The Lord says, both the prophets and the priests are godless. That's pretty crazy. Could you imagine prophet Jeremiah coming and saying, your church pastors are godless? Your divine representatives are godless? That's what Jeremiah was doing. I have even found them doing evil in my temple. How many pastors have sexually abused parishioners or had illicit affairs or embezzled money in their churches, in the very building? I've even found that. So the path they follow will be. It's tragic and it is abhorrent, where religious representatives of God would abuse underage children. That just is beyond horrific and inexcusable. It is terrible, but it's not new. The path they follow will be dark and slippery. They will stumble and fall headlong. And we've seen that in our day. They prophesied how many Christian leaders have we put on a pedestal and then find out that the evil and sins that they were doing without our knowledge? They prophesied in the name of God, Baal, and led my people astray. But they were priests of Yahweh. That means they preached the word of Yahweh out of the scriptures, but the life view they presented and the philosophy of life they promoted and the lifestyle they lived was of Babylon. They give encouragement to people who are doing evil. How many church leaders in our day encourage evil and sin? It's not new. It's not new. Result that they do not stop their evil doing. What kind of health nutritiousness am I if I tell about all the benefits of healthy eating and a healthy lifestyle, but then at the end of the day, I encourage them to neglect everything I've been trying to teach them about a healthy lifestyle. And I say, oh, you're beautiful just the way you are. You're wonderful the way you are, without knowing that the way they are is going to make them die sooner or decrease their quality of life, or not prevent, like they won't even be able to do what normal people can do because of their lifestyle choices. For the prophets of Jerusalem are the reason that ungodliness has spread throughout the land. How ironic is that? The people that are supposed to promote, like, someone's brought up a good point. We have so many doctors in our society, then why is our society so sick? Why are so many people, we have so many psychologists in our society and so many pills, why are we more depressed and stressed out and anxious than other societies or our society in the past? Or are these people actually making us healthy and actually guiding us on a lifestyle of health? They aren't. Most aren't. And that's a fact. The statistics prove that. Do not listen to what those prophets are saying to you. There are prophets you mean to not listen to anymore. They're keeping you focused on a world of just living a life of destruction and heading towards destruction. They are not representing God truly. They're reporting visions of their own imagination. They are concocting a God in their own image. They are reinterpreting scripture to mean whatever they want it to mean. How many pastors today will misinterpret scriptures to communicate a contrary theology and vision of God and his will in the world? And anyone who studied the scriptures know they're taking it out of context. they can do it because the people who are listening to them don't actually know the word. They don't actually study the scriptures. So they don't know better. Many people misled by false representatives of Christianity are partly to blame because they didn't actually study to see if what they are hearing on Sundays is actually what the scriptures actually teach and what God, the Spirit, is communicating or trying to communicate through the scriptures. Because a lot of it, just like selective news reporting, is let's select a few Bible passages that affirm our presentation of what Christianity is and what you have to be a Christian. And it's just picking and choosing. It's just editing God's word. Pastors do this all the time. They edit God's word and they take things out of context completely to communicate a vision of religion, a vision of what Christianity is, or just what people want to hear. And if your paycheck depends on what people want to hear, then you're going to tell people what they want to hear so you get your paycheck. The philosophies of influential figures in history aim to create dependency on created realities. Likewise, religious leaders often imitate the self-righteousness exhibited by the Pharisees, who prioritized their own biblical traditions over divine guidance. They pridefully tell God's Spirit how... This is one of the things that bothers me the most. It bothers me to the core. Is religious leaders will tell God's Spirit how religious service ought to be ordered. You cannot read Acts and 1 Corinthians and believe that's an organization that is following this true Spirit of God. When you're telling God, you can only work from this time to this time. This is what we're going to let happen. This is the order. This is what's going. We're the ones determining what's going to happen in the service. We're planning it out. We're preparing. We're laying it out like a director of a movie or like a director of a play. We're just, this is a script. This is what people do. Then people go. How anti-God is that? How anti-sovereignty is that? How anti-providence it is? It is the ignorance of like someone going to Beethoven and saying, well, let's say, when he could, I think when he could hear, that, oh, you don't know how to compose. You don't know how to conduct this symphony. Oh, get out of here. What are you doing? Or the one who architected a building. Oh, we don't need your help. Oh, well, why are you here? You don't need to tell us. We don't need your blueprint. Well, we're going to make it up as we go. No, you're in God's house. You don't tell God's house. I mean, you don't walk into my house and tell me how to and order my family around and just take over my house. I'm the father. I'm the husband of my house. I'm taking care of my children. You're not going to come here. It's just like the government coming here and tell us how to teach our kids or telling us how to raise our kids. I mean, that's why we have such a huge homeschool movement in America, because the government has wanted to be the parent and to establish the house rules and the ethics and the philosophy and the religion that our kids are going to adopt and have to ascribe to. But no, that's our right, our prerogative. The parents are the ones who have dedicated our life, not just bringing kids into the world, but providing for them, taking care of them. We've sacrificed so much for them. Who are you to come in and tell us how to raise our kids? And yet so many pastors and religious leaders will tell God how his church should operate and how the Spirit of God should move and what the Spirit of God should allow and not allow. You cannot read Acts and 1 Corinthians and believe that. And we're going to get into that in great detail. But at the end of the day, it's just the world system. The world saying to God, we know better than you how to organize and govern human activity on earth and how to inspire and direct and empower human activity. Today, the champions of civilization disseminate their narratives and perspectives to the public through various mediums, whether novels and movies and TV shows and textbooks to self-help books. I despise most self-help books because what it says, there are some good ones out there, but many of them say they're just humanistic. They're just, if you truly loved yourself, you truly be happy. If you truly knew yourself, you would be happy. If you were truly encourage yourself enough, you would be happy. If you thought more positive thoughts about yourself, you'd be happy. Nothing about the God relationship. Nothing about your need for God in your life. That's not self-help. That's self-destruction. Because what you're saying is the core of what we need to be truly human, to be a temple of God. You're saying, no, you need to be a temple of yourself. Well, I'm sorry, but if you want to be a temple of yourself, that's where hell lives. Hell is a tabernacle of self without God. It is a world created without God. A world created. We can't create the world. What is reality? We can't create reality. We can't make the sun rise. We can't make the sky protect us from the heat of the sun and filter things out. We can't make food appear, and yet we want to say, oh, we are the creators of our own reality. No, that's hell. Hell is a creation of the human imagination that is without God's vision, purposes, plan, essence, reality, who he is, his character, his love, his destinies, his purposes. It is a place where we can play God for eternity without being God. Skewed news coverage, music, talk shows, television programs, movies, biased historical or nature documentaries. In the digital age, these leaders also utilize computers, smartphones, tablets to showcase curated social media feeds, blogs, podcasts, games, forums designed to indoctrinate. Most of these tools and mediums are indoctrinating you. How are they indoctrinating you? What are they indoctrinating you to? Where are they directing you? You need to be critical and examine, where are these things leading you in life? Worldly advertisements that seek to influence opinions and choice. These broadcasts not only affect, but are also influenced by institutions and companies that shape how people manage their homes and engage with society according to idolatrous ways of life. No wonder social media companies would make algorithms that are addictive, because they are making profit and money off the data of our usage of the data they collect from us freely without recompense, and then addict us and make us addicted so that we give them more data so they can sell more data and become richer and richer. It's no surprise that many companies use addictive chemicals and addictive things that make us addictive, because at the end of the day, they don't care about us. They don't love us. We are just a means of lining their pockets and giving them influence and power and control in the world. Yeah, I think we're going to stop here for now. Just think about the TV commercials. I dare you to just take up what we've been talking about and just watch some commercials on YouTube or online or look at billboards and just tell me I'm wrong. Product placement in movies, influencer marketing, promoting the interests, outlook, lifestyles of corporations who put profit over everything and cater to the consumers. McDonald's does not care about your health. They don't. Coca-Cola doesn't really want you to be happy. They don't. Facebook doesn't really want you to have really good friendships. These algorithms don't want you to love your neighbor. I mean, almost reminds me of a show like Jerry Springer where, drama, corruption, broken families are entertaining. It's sad. It's so sad. Just look at just how much in our society promote lifestyles that our society knows is bad and leads to destruction, and yet they promote it anyways. I mean, on the one hand, you have a society that glorifies alcohol as a means of coping and enjoying life, and at the same time puts out all these news reports about DUIs and shames all the DUI people, or the people that kill people when they're intoxicated, or rape people, whether intentionally or unintentionally. On the one hand, we see extreme destruction of that lifestyle. And another, it's glorified and portrayed as wonderful and amazing and glorious. And yet, a huge part of our population, way too much, has suffered the ill effects of alcoholism, both personally and in the family or in their organization. It happens all the time. One time, they'll celebrate freedom to enjoy sexuality as you want, and on the other hand, see all the sex trafficking and abuse and illicit activities until they're not illicit anymore, which there are many campaigns by elites in our society that want to destigmatize some of these illegal forms of fulfillment in life that culture has accepted as criminal, like underage, being with underage individuals. It's so sad. But we all know it's true. We know society and many organizations promote a way of life and then at the same time shame or ignore the destruction that comes from that way of life. Just go to Los Angeles, Chicago. Just go. I've been to the places in downtown Houston. I've been there at 1:00 at night on a Saturday night. I've seen what happens when I did a homeless ministry. I know what's happening on those streets. I've been on a street in Houston where they're involved in a ministry, but there was just sex trafficking happening all around. No police in sight. All these hotels, I mean, it's a problem. We all know it. But our society glorifies it and celebrates it. And then at the same time, some of it they'll condemn. Anyways, I'll end there. I just encourage you to take time and think about your society and culture, how corrupt and perverse it is, and whether or not it's what Christ has called you to when he has invited you to follow him. And for God to call you to your eternal destiny. Is that your eternal destiny? Is that who he created you to be? Is that his will for your life? Is that his plan for your life? You know it's not. And it's just time to accept that and to run to God to say, save me from this life. Give me a new life. Show me how to be human. Show me who I truly am. Guide me, because I can't do this on my own. I need you. I need you to change my heart, change my mind, remove these images from my mind, remove these cravings from my heart, wage war in my spirit against that which is eating me inside. Save me from depression. Save me from despair. Save me from hopelessness. That's the path of salvation, is seeking God to save your life completely.